Welcome to episode 9 of Becoming the Man Project. I'm your host, Eric Finister. Thank you all for joining me, tuning in, watching these episodes. I see I have new, excuse me, I see I have new listeners. I have the United States, I have Japan, France, Malaysia, and now Cambodia. No, and Colombia. So thank you all for watching with me. I definitely appreciate it. So let's just dive right on in. Let's just dive right on in. Those who know me know I don't like to waste no time, so let's go. Um, Man, I'm gonna start off with this. The most important decision that you can make outside of choosing God is the woman you're gonna marry. The woman you decide to marry is very vital, very key because the level of influence that that woman have. We look throughout the Bible talks specifically, about keeping away from certain type of women. In previous episodes I've shared, when God told me to not talk to people without telling me why. And then when he did, provide the why behind it. You know, and just think if I would have been disobedient, think back on this one girl who I really liked. When God told me no and didn't tell me why until months, almost a year later, when I found out she was into tarot cards and didn't really believe in God and all these different things. That there was another instance where there was this girl where God did tell me exactly what she was all about. And I'm like, yeah, then that's not you. But come to find out, it was. So I'm grateful, for those lessons because now, I mean, I'm married now, but that put me in a place to where it positioned me to really think, to really evaluate, and determine if I would pursue this person or not. Listen to the no's, listen to the no's, listen to the no's, despite how you feel, the emotional connection, the physical connection, whatever. Be okay with the no. But yeah, man, it's very, very important to choose wisely because a woman can make you and a woman can break you down. Let's look at Delilah and Samson. Now we know the story, right? We know the story of Samson and Delilah. You know, God gave Samson this supernatural strength. I mean, Superman type strength, right? Where he could just break the bones and jaws of lions and, you know, tear down temples and, kill 1,000 people here. The man was bad, man. And so what happened? There's this woman. Keep trying to find what's the source of your strength? What's the source of your strength? What's the source of your strength? Right. And every time he would tell her, you know, um, what it was in the middle of the night, guards, they'll come and try to attack him, but they couldn't overcome Samson because he was obviously not telling Delilah the truth. And you think, after that happened so many times, you would think that Samson would be like, okay, she's trying to trap me. She's trying to, know where my strength come from. They try to capture me. But no, he stayed with her, right? Time and time again. And if you read on Samson, like if you read the previous chapters um, about Samson, you'll see that he had this issue with, women, the strange women that he should not have been with. We see throughout scriptures where God, he will tell men, stay away from the foreign women, stay away from the strange women. And time again, what do we see? We see people not listening. And then we end up seeing their demise. So what happens with Samson? Samson eventually tells Delilah, you know, where the source of his strength really comes from. And what happens? She cuts his hair, right? While he's sleeping. Guards come in. He knows he don't have the strength, right? They take the man's eyes out. They chain him up between these two pillars. And now he's being made a mockery. All because he gave in to a woman that wasn't even meant for him. This is why, man, it's very important who you decide to marry. When we look in today's time, we think of what is dating. People are quick to say, "Oh, that's my boyfriend, that's my girlfriend, that's my ride or die." People are quick to give labels before anyone have even proved themselves of being worthy of a friend, a best friend, right? A ride or die. Even Jesus, 3 years with the disciples before he even said or considered them as a friend or even called them friend. 3 years. So we should take a page out of that. But back to Samson and Delilah. And he's not the only one. Samson is not the only one. Right. But now this man he's being made a mockery. Right. And of course, in that moment, he's like, God, if you could just restore my strength, I would take these people out for you. And over time, what happens? Samson's hair begins to grow again. And when it begins to grow, he's in between those pillars, pulls those pillars down, kills everyone. And they say in the Bible, it says that he killed more at that point versus when he had his eyes and before he was captured. So it's uh, very important who you link up with, man. Very important. You don't want to be with a Delilah. You do not. You do not want to be with a Delilah. Someone who whispers sweet nothings, but ultimately have a motive, right, to tear you down. And this is not an attack on all women because all women are not the same, just like all men aren't the same. But just like there are good men and good women out there, on the other side of that coin, there's bad men and bad women out there. That's just a fact, right? We as men have to use discernment. Don't make a decision based off of looks, based off of loneliness, based off of sexual chemistry, all those things. You should be waiting until you're married anyway, to find out about the sexual chemistry. What people fail to realize is that dating is just getting to know a person. There's no way you should be, after date number one, going back to the house and you get what I'm saying? You catch what I'm saying? There's no way, you, there's no way you should be doing that. Because, man, there is a thing called soul ties. Yes, it's a thing called soul ties. And you don't want to connect yourself with someone who has all these different spirits on the inside of them. And then you having sex with that person. Now you're inviting those spirits. And now you're leaving that house and guess what? You're carrying those spirits on with you. Then you start to see a change in yourself. Why is this happening? Why is that happening? Oh, you've changed. You used to be this way. Now you're that way. Soul ties. And sometimes soul ties can last for years. Sometimes you can have soul ties and not even know. I remember a few years ago, I was on a live. I was on a Facebook live watching a guy teach, right? And he gave me a word and told me, God had broke the soul tie, like right there in that moment. And it's funny because at the time I'm watching this with my new girlfriend, and because she didn't understand what soul ties were, she thought I had feelings for this girl, and why you have a soul tie, and yeah, blah. I'm like, you're taking it out of context. But I didn't even know that the soul tie was there. I didn't know. I moved on, and obviously I was with someone else, but the soul tie was still there. So then you might be asking, well, Eric, how do I even identify if there's a soul tie? How can I break a soul tie? Well, I'm glad you asked. First and foremost, and if you notice, I always say it all goes back to having a relationship with God. That's like the foundation of all of this, of all the teachings. It's the foundation, having a relationship with God. Because when you have that relationship with God and you're spending that quality time with God, and you're setting that time aside and you're seeking Him and getting in His presence, He will reveal things to you, or He will send someone your way to reveal those things. But if you're not in a place, where you're spending that time with God, or you're not even in a place where you can receive, how can He release something, information to you? So you wanna kill your soul tie, break your soul tie? First, like I said, foundation is having a relationship with God. But go to God. Begin to seek God and ask Him to reveal things to you. Am I carrying a soul tie that I don't know about? If so, reveal it to me. Who is it? Where did it come from? Spend that time in prayer, seeking God, fast, and have Him go to Him to reveal it to you. Because you don't want to be walking around with these soul ties, with these demons, these spirits on you, in you, and you don't even know. Because here's the thing, you don't know how many people that woman has slept with, right? And the people that she slept with, you don't know how many other women that man slept with. Do you see the domino effect, the chain reaction? So man, you could choose to sleep with a woman who has had 10 different partners, and each of those 10 different partners could have had 2, 3, or 4 different partners. And all those different spirits, guess what? You're welcoming them all in. You don't want that. You want to get that flesh under subjection. Don't give in to the lust of the flesh. Don't give in to the loneliness. Have discernment, use discernment. You do not want to be connected with the wrong woman. And for the women that's listening, same rules apply. You do not want to be connected to the wrong man. You just don't. Because it's the same thing. It's the same exact thing. But Samson, he had an issue with foreign, strange women before he even got with Delilah. So that was always a problem. And that was ultimately the demise of Samson, the fall of Samson. Let's look at King Solomon. Right? We know King Solomon was David's son, right? Well, we know that with King Solomon, God asked him, "What do you want?" He asked for wisdom, so he'd be able to, rightly govern, lead, the people. And because of that, not only did God give God, not only did God give Solomon wisdom, he also made him the wealthiest king. So he made him the wisest, right, and the wealthiest, and gave him very specific instructions to not, get intertwined with the strange, the foreign women. Over time, what ends up happening? 700 wives, 300 concubines. He eventually fell to the strange woman. And what happens is they began to turn his heart away from God. And now he's building up, false gods so they can burn incense and all these different things. You go from being the wealthiest, wisest king, right? To and then serving God, right? You're serving God to now you're falling for this strange woman. And now it's caused you to turn your back away from God. See, that's the thing, man. You got to look past the looks, right? Past the body, the curves, right? Because it's deeper than that. That's just surface level. Looks fade, right? Things drop and droop. It's what's in the heart. What substance is she bringing? You do not want to be connected to the wrong woman. You don't, because it can break you down. And if we look at Samson, it caused him to have his eyes plucked out, right? Chained up to pillars, made a mockery. Causes Solomon to now turn his back on God and now start building these false gods so these women can burn the incense and all that. You do not want to you don't want to succumb to that. You just don't, because it's like, why? Why would you want to do that? And you heard the saying where you don't really know what you have until it's gone, right? You know that saying? People really don't understand that, or understand what they really have in God, until they find themselves in a situation where they've turned their back and like, wow, how did I get here? That's that's something. And here's the thing that happened with Solomon. Because of Solomon's um mishap, it caused the kingdom to be divided. Right? So God gives him this kingdom. And then because of his fall, him turning his back and not listening, now it caused the kingdom to be divided. There's a cost to being disobedient. Now it pays. It pays to be obedient. It definitely pays to be obedient, but there is a cost to being disobedient. You don't want to hook up with the wrong one. You don't want to find yourself in a situation, because let's take it deeper. Let's take it deeper, right? Solomon, right? Samson got with the wrong women, and we see what happens. Let's put it into 2026. You're with a woman, right? You see her on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Facebook, wherever. So, Snapchat, slide in a DM, right? And it's like, ooh, she's I don't know what that was. It's like, oh, she's pretty. I like her. I like what I'm seeing. Slide in the DM. She's posting these sexy pictures, right, on the ground. You slide in DM, you get a response. She allows you to take her out on a date. You know nothing about her, right? You just know, hey, she look good, she fine. She let me take her on a date. You get to know her. And it's unfortunate, but we live in a time where men count it as lucky. I might get lucky tonight, right? And let's just say you get quote unquote lucky without protection, not knowing that she's HIV positive or she has an STD, and now your whole life has changed off of one mistake. And let's go deeper. Let's go. Let's say that's not the case. Let's say that she doesn't have HIV, right? She does have no STDs, and the date goes well. And there's another date and another date and another date, right? And then she wants to be serious. Let's be exclusive. I want you to get to know the real me. I want this. I want you, right? And then you start to pay attention to the things she say, things she do. You go into her house and you start to see images and things that don't really sit right with you in your spirit. Get out, get out, get out. For some of you, that's the confirmation you need. Just get out of the situation. Go, run, leave, move. What's the saying? Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Go, just leave. Get out, because you never know what the person is doing behind closed doors, and it's just unfortunate. Like I said, I was interested in a woman years ago and did not know why God was telling me why. And let's just say I didn't listen. Let's say I still decided to just be with her, to pursue her. Now I'm willingly connecting myself with someone who is against God, who doesn't value my relationship with God because they don't believe in God. They don't have a relationship with God, right? And then, you're with someone and you want to prove that you like them or you want to be with them. So you tap into their world, right? So let's just say I tap into her world. She's doing the tarot cards reading, the sound baths and all these different type of things. And now I'm opening up my spirit. She's burning sage and all these different things. I'm opening up my spirit, right, to all these different things. And now it's bringing on different spirits, different levels of warfare that now I have to fight because I chose to be with someone who God told me not to be with. Thankfully, I'm grateful and thankful that, that's not the case, that that's not what I did, that I obeyed, and now I am a very, 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 very happily married man, very happily married man. But I could have gone a different path. I could have gone a different way. I could have been like, I want what I want, when I want it, how I want it. God, yeah, that sounds good and all, but no, this is what I want. This is who I want. A lot of times, God's no's are divine protection, divine redirection, right? Man, it's very important that you choose the right women, choose the right wife. You should use dating for what it really is. It's just to get to know the individual. That's where you ask all the tough questions. That's where you do it. It's more than just pictures and selfies. No, you need to get to know the person. You know, what's your relationship like with your parents? Do you believe in God? How often do you spend time with God? What are some of the things that, your parents dealt with that you refuse or you decide not to do? Now, these are things you have to act. It's deeper. You have to go beyond surface level. And ultimately, let's just say, she's saying all the right things. Always seek God. I remember I was dating this girl, right? And we were going to plan our first date. You know, uh, we've been talking for a while, and I hadn't, set up a date or anything. So she called me, talked to me about it. Oh, okay. And yeah, so got off the phone. Like, okay, I'm gonna plan a date. Just that simple. Oh my God, give me a sign. What you want me to do? Because immediately after the phone call, something just did not seem right. So God, give me a dream, a vision, a word. Just tell me, show me what it is you want me to do. That night, I had a dream. And in the dream, I'm on the date with the girl. But while we're driving in my car in the dream, it felt like I was not supposed to be on a date with her. Like, this is not what God wanted me to do. So that morning, at 5 o'clock in the morning, I texted her and I told her. She agreed. Right after she got off the phone with me, she felt something like, no, this is not right. This is not what's supposed to happen. And here's the thing, man. When you're dating and God is in the center of it, it doesn't end in heartbreak when things don't progress because there's a mutual understanding. Okay, well, this is not what God had for us. It was good. It was good getting to know you. I pray you find who God has for you and you move on. It's just that simple. And with that particular individual, we stayed friends. We talked, but we talk, from time to time, catch up, things like that. And until ultimately, I ended up getting married. She ended up getting married. Um, and we just kind of stopped talking, out of respect for my wife, her husband. Just kind of like that's it. And that's okay. See, man, you have to, you have to have that relationship with God. And don't ignore the signs. Don't ignore the red flags. You don't want to find yourself in a situation like Samson, right? Where now you're being mocked, right? Head shaved, eyes plucked out, being made a mockery. What would that look like in 2026? Being made a mockery. Probably have to do something with social media, right? Somebody, her posting something about you on social media and it going viral and, millions of views. And now you're known for this particular thing. And it's just, if you would have listened, if you would have obeyed, you wouldn't even have this problem. So, man, it's very important. I can't stress this enough to be with the right woman and choose wisely and seek God while choosing. You know, pray that God gives you discernment so you don't end up with the wrong one. Because, like I said, it's beyond the looks, it's beyond the sex, right? It's beyond all of that. So, a lot of times, what men end up doing, they'll end up staying because of the sex, right? Will stay because of the looks, right? Will stay because it can't get no better than this, right? Wrong. It can and it does and it will, but you have to be willing to walk away. So, man, this is going to conclude episode 9 of Becoming the Man Project. We're 9 episodes in. Wow, that's crazy. God gave me this a month and a half ago. He told me to start this podcast. I didn't know nothing about podcasts. I had the name already, in my mind. Um, I knew I wanted it to be tailored to men, and that was pretty much it, you know. Um, and I'm like, wow, I'm now 9 episodes in. I'm just thankful and grateful to all the listeners the audience, you know, in the United States and France and Japan and Malaysia, uh, Colombia, Cambodia. Thank you all for listening and watching, and the likes, the subscribers, comments. I am greatly, greatly appreciative of it because it's like I said in the last episode, it's more than the likes and more than the comments. It's more than that. If I just reach one person, one man that can just change the whole trajectory of their life, I'm happy. If I have that one follower that's just looking, that's watching faithfully, hey, as long as I'm imparting something good into them, that's what it's about. Next week, I will have a guest on here. Those who watched my very first guest, Apostle Ivan Horton, you know, from Gang Chief to Apostle, I have another guest, something similar. Um, just stay tuned. That's going to be a really good episode. Just stay tuned for that. But again, thank you all for watching. This is going to conclude today's episode. But you know what? Before we end, let me pray. I'm going to pray for the men, the young men, the teenagers, you know, that watches this. Um, God, we come to you today. We come to you first and foremost, giving you all the praise, all the honor, and all the glory, God, for you're worthy to be praised. You're worthy to be glorified, magnified, lifted up on high, and exalted. God, I ask that you be with every man that's listening, every man that's watching, God, every man that's struggling to disconnect from their Delilah, that's having the issue discerning or lacking obedience and listening to your voice, to not link up with that person. God, I ask that you give them the will, God, you give them the drive, God, you give them the motivation, God, you give them the discernment, God, to not connect with the wrong woman or to disconnect with the wrong woman from the wrong woman, God, and give them peace and knowing that you have better for them. Help them to be satisfied in your will. God, we just thank you, we praise you, we love you, we honor you, worship you, and we adore you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. This is going to conclude episode 9 of Becoming the Man Project. I am your host, Eric Finister. See you guys next week.